Okay.
Hello, Jennifer Taylor.
Hello, Tava Baird, and welcome everyone to another episode of Mystical Musings Podcast, where I have an intention of continuing our conversation from last week because I still have some things to unpack from Samael's words.
Yes, I'm so excited for more song. I have to tell you, your voice and that monochord, nobody can see it, but I'm doing like a chef's kiss. Mwah.
Well, thank you. I love it, love it, love it. It just instantly transports me to a place where there's specific things that seem to come through when I'm playing it. And I'm starting to recognize that I think some of those are specific people and energies. And Mary Magdalene is definitely one of those.
Yeah, it's newer for us to have her energy around. She's been around in one way or another, but to just have her come right through in the song is absolutely breathtaking.
Yeah, it is. It feels really good. Her presence is just amazing. So, yeah, without further ado, just go ahead and sing and see what she wants to bring through to help to lead our discussion today.
I love it.
Wow. Well, she showed me a new way of playing that.
That was really cool.
Yeah, I've never plucked the monochord before. But there was this sense of, no, that's not the direction we're going. I felt like she was wanting to bring through another aspect of herself, of the power and the standing up for yourself and holding your space. And there was this whole different energy coming through her this time, that it was like, oh no, we're not just strumming across of it. It was taking multiple fingers and grabbing the things with almost a claw and plucking them in different places. It was really cool. I was like,
Cool.
whoa, I never thought to do this with the monochord.
That's awesome. It's interesting that you were talking about a grabbing of power there too. This is what Samael had to say as Mary Magdalene came through. All of us are fallen angels, held up against the light to be examined, our flaws and inconsistencies noted in the glare. It is a standard created from myth, a drive to not only be, but be more, an instinct spun out of control in the context of a society that has forgotten itself, misplaced energy, erratic thoughts. The very things that make us unique, that allow us to discover divine pattern, are ridiculed and picked apart. You do not measure, they say. You are an aberration, a devil, and you believe them. Believe it because no one else showed you another way to belong, another way to view yourself. The fallen angel is still an angel, Upshala, and one wise in many remarkable ways. Perfection and holiness are not one in the same. Nature and godhood are, and you, beloved, are nothing if not natural.
Beautiful. I love that. Yeah, it was really neat to get to experience a new aspect of her and then hear the words that Samael had for us there as well.
He has linked Mary Magdalene and the Watchers together many times before. He does it in that Power of Story episode about Mary Magdalene. When did we record that? Was it July or June?
It was early. Yeah, I think it was probably June 2025, maybe even like May. It was the first one that we recorded when we got
Oh,
together
was it?
after the Fertile Ground Gathering, because we assumed he was going to do another Lilith. So we would just have like, okay, now we'll have a recording for the people to go through in Lilith. And it was like, nope, Mary Magdalene.
I remember now because I remember us ending the session and going, what the heck?
Yeah. Yeah, we were really surprised. And it's interesting. I've had Mary Magdalene and her story show up for me in so many different places, like different podcasts I was listening to or things that I found online where people were being interviewed. And she seems to be coming through a lot of people and showing up and being like, tell my story, and talking about her time in, I guess, France and maybe southern Spain, I think. But it was interesting. One of the last things, and the stories aren't all the same as far as her experiences, but there are a lot of crossovers. But one of the things that the last one that struck me was that she was saying that it was like Jesus, like that she had a mission to come down here too, and that both of them were actually awakened beings when they came in. Like they were both had more of a sense of why they were here and that they were meant to be doing their work alongside each other, and that he was able to achieve his goal for, but not necessarily what she was, as that she didn't have the opportunity because of the plight of women at that time to really do what it was that she came here fully to do. But that part of what she did when she was in southern France was to walk the earth and walk these certain pathways over and over, and embed her energy in that space so that she would be remembered, and that so that it would be remembered that there was a woman too, and that the divine
Whoa.
feminine was meant to be shown, that women also had that same ability to rise above death and to move beyond, and that there was so much more. And that she knew that based on all of the things that had happened already, her story was going to get demolished. Her story wasn't going to get told in the same way, but that she continued in her last years, like she just continually walked those paths and intentionally anchored her presence on earth. And that when people go there now, they tend to encounter her. Like they'll go in these areas and feel her presence and find it easier to connect with her there. And that was a very intentional thing. So I
Oh
don't know
my
what the,
gosh.
again, all stories are true. So whatever version that person had channeled and had put it in a book, I haven't been able to find in English but yet, but it is called Pistis Maria, I think, was the name of the book that this person was talking about, where they had channeled her. It was originally in Italian, but it's
Wow.
really interesting all the different ways that she seems to be coming in and coming through now, especially for the women who are in these countries where we have the right to live alone, to speak our minds, to be educated, to share our views. That it's especially important that we reclaim our power, and that men as well start really reclaiming this divine feminine aspect of themselves, men, women, or however you identify. It's the divine feminine time. It's time for that to really be reawakened in, regardless of the gender that you identify with, that divine feminine and divine masculine have become really out of balance. And part of her mission is to help to bring that aspect back in, that divine feminine, and help people to understand more about it and the more of the aspects of it.
That is awesome.
So something that had come up for me in the last episode when I was first hearing all of those words that Samael had shared, and actually maybe it would make sense to have you read them again, so that just to remind people, because it will have been a week for others, or at least a week.
So here we go. So this is on reclamation. This is from Samael in the last episode. Reclamation, the most powerful magic. I am one who walks the between, the edge. I am one who seeks balance, who looks at the words written and spoken, and then through them. All stories are true, which means that their creation must be done with care. What is born on the tongue can create worlds, help others or hinder them, allow formation or destruction. There are many who give this no thought and use their power to slander for their own gain. What must we do then when those with a pulpit or platform sully names in order to pick the pockets of the masses? Is there any remedy for those whose names have been demonized either by ill will or a lack of understanding? Abandonment is often our first choice. There are things that must be abandoned for our own safety. Clean breaks must be made, we think, but no break is ever truly clean. And so, when things have stabilized, we must balance and then reclaim. What is it that you need to go back for? Your hope, your heroes, your dead? In doing this hard work, we strive for balance. Balance is where we hold our power, sustained power, unlike the power of those who would seek your trust for their own gain. This is what the true faithful seek. This is the work of the Magdalene and the work of the day. Reclamation, transformation, wholeness. And I should also probably say when Samael says the work of the day, it's not DAY, like this is what you're going to do today. It's DAE, which is what he used as a term to describe practitioners of Lilithian magic. I'm sure that there's probably other versions too, but he is talking about a particular group of beings who are cast out from society and whose worth is called into question, and who then seek to reclaim balance through radical empathy and particular practices. This gets into all of sort of Samael's magical teachings, which is in other places.
So there are a couple different routes, and I'm trying to organize my mind enough to figure out how to articulate this. But there were several things that really jumped out at me. One was, is there any remedy for those whose reputations have been sullied by people saying all of these things, and how powerful our words are? That our words create or destroy or create worlds, or how incredibly powerful our words are, and how important it is that we then choose them carefully. And then that we're also continually in the presence or bombarded with people who are not choosing their words carefully, or who are maybe choosing their words carefully to destroy or sully or intentionally cause harm or intentionally misrepresent the truth. And then we have that idea that all stories are true, because whatever story we are speaking, we are creating it in the speaking of it. And then how do you reconcile all the various versions of true in the same sort of situation? How do you reconcile that? And there's been recently a situation that I know Tava knows really well, where in our personal life, where a cycle had seemed to kind of come to an end that began many years ago with lots and lots of hope and the desire to heal and to help and to reclaim lives that had been sort of cast aside, and help to bring them love and balance and health and the opportunity to reclaim their past and change everything. And many years of blood, sweat, and tears went into the just pouring of love into this relationship. And then it was clear, and it's interesting even in here that he says there are things that must be abandoned for our own safety. And it was very much one of those situations where it was for our safety and for the best interest of the individual that we part ways. And we were told by the angels, you have fulfilled your soul contract with this individual, and this is what's supposed to happen. But based on the nature of the things the individual had experienced, they could see it in the moment and in that time when we were gifting them exactly what it was that they said they most needed to be able to move forward. But then after that fact, due to all sorts of imbalances and traumas, started creating new stories of the past and created an entire world in which the person lives now that's really self-created. It's based on new stories and new versions of things that happened a long time ago that are so new and different that they're really not based in the facts that we experienced and that we would have all agreed were the facts at the time. And it's made me start thinking too. I've been listening to podcasts and things about life reviews, and they say that when you die, that there's a life review where you go through and you actually experience what others in your life experienced at your hand. So if you spread lots of love and kindness, you get a sense of the impact that you had on others. Just that smile of somebody in the grocery store, you get to see how it changed their day and their interactions and how it changed things. But that you also, if you were causing harm and you were causing pain to others, you get to experience that as well, so that you can really learn from, oh my goodness, when I behave this way, it has this sort of effect on others. And so I started thinking about what happens in a life review when there are multiple versions of
Yeah.
truth then? Which version do you live? And if you only live your own version, is that educational? And yet, if you experience the version of someone who was really mentally ill, or whose version was shaped by so much trauma that it created something so different, what version do you live? What do you
Right.
go through? And it's possible that Samael doesn't even agree with the whole process of life review. And I realize that's not something we've ever talked about. So I wanted to throw
Right.
that
Right.
out there. But I know I'm
Life
throwing
review.
out all
Okay.
these things. So part of me was thinking, is there any remedy though for those who have been sullied? Like now we're being, there's a lot of intentional speaking by the individual to sully our names, to intentionally cause harm with their words towards us. And we refuse to participate and still will only speak of the truth of who that person is underneath all of it, because that's the part that we're determined to hold on to. And that there can't be a tug of war if you drop the rope. It's like if only one
Exactly.
person's standing with the rope, there is no battle.
Exactly.
But all of this really, it Samael's words seem to awaken all of those things. And so I thought those might be some really interesting things to unpack.
Absolutely. I don't think you read any entertainment news or anything, but every now and then there's a couple of websites that I hit that do like movie reviews and television reviews, and they also tell some entertainment stories. And this reminds me of something that came out this week. So there's a very famous director, Quentin Tarantino, and anybody who's watched the news probably heard of this story because it's been all around this week. And there is an actor named Paul Dano, and I don't know that I've seen him in anything, but Quentin Tarantino got, extremely powerful in Hollywood. And Paul Dano, from what I understand, is an award-winning actor. And apparently, Quentin Tarantino on some podcast or interview suddenly just started trashing Paul Dano, saying he was a boring actor, he was a horrible actor, he was one of the worst actors. This movie that he was in, he would have thought this was the perfect movie except for Paul Dano's performance, blah, 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 just trashed this man to pieces, right? Now, Quentin Tarantino holds a tremendous amount of power in the chosen field where Paul Dano works. And Quentin Tarantino also threw a couple of other actors under the bus, but apparently he went hard in on Mr. Dano. What happened was really interesting. It's what happened in response. All of these actors started coming out of the woodwork. And you have to think, you come out and you are going up against Quentin Tarantino, you could be jeopardizing your career as an actor. A lot of actors and famous ones started coming out and making videos and saying, I have worked with Paul Dano. He is a gift. He is wonderful. He is kind to everyone. He is one of the most talented actors I have ever seen. Like just these incredible love letters and comments. They were going on podcasts, they were going on TV, pushing back and saying, what was really interesting was a couple of them said, Quentin Tarantino's trashing him in this one particular movie. Quentin Tarantino's just jealous he didn't direct that movie. And then they were starting to tell their stories about working with Mr. Tarantino, which was interesting. But what was really cool is I saw an analysis of this and I said, we live in a society right now where it's a very do it yourself society. I mean, here we are, we have our own podcast. We're literally doing this over Zoom. We have our own little tiny platform here. We can say whatever we want and we can use it to help or we can use it to hurt. But these voices are very amplified by the internet and by social media. It is very easy in this day and age to come out and say, I hate X. And suddenly there are lots and lots of people piling on who say they hate X too, right? Would have been very easy. What I loved about this was the outpouring of love to defend Paul Dano, who I had never even heard of before this. And there's one actor in particular who made a video Oh my God, where he just cuts loose on Quentin Tarantino and is like, what is the matter with you, man? It is one for the ages. But what was really cool when I saw the analysis to this situation was the writer, I think it was on Pajiba, which is a great site. It's pajiba.com. They do an analysis of movies and pop culture and stuff. But the writer on there said, I don't even think Paul Dano had any idea how loved he was until Quentin Tarantino trashed him. And now the whole world has suddenly come forward and is telling him how much they admire his work and how much they admire him as a person. And I think there's a real tendency right now because the world platform is so big and media moves so quickly. When someone does just out of the blue start trash talking, maybe he was just being thoughtless, maybe he had a personal vendetta, who knows? But when this negativity comes out, it's really easy for us to say, oh my God, I'm sunk. Everyone's going to believe this now. But what we saw here was a group of people at their own risk coming out and saying, no, no, I'm not going to stand there and let you say horrible things about my coworker and my friend. Doesn't matter how powerful you are. I'm not doing that. And I'm starting to see in other places little shifts like this in our consciousness as well. I think a lot of times we feel really buried by how quickly negative news can spread. Human beings are hardwired to pass on negative news. It's how we survived, you know. Oh no, the house is on fire, pass it on. But we forget to everybody get out.
There's a
But,
saber tooth coming,
there's a saber
it
tooth
ate people in
coming.
that other village, build bigger
Yeah,
fences.
and we don't say how delicious this stew is enough. We're wired to pass on the bad news. It's one of the ways that we survive as groups, and humans are meant to be in groups. But it's gotten to the point where we just pile on, and we think that the powerful in our world have the right to say, we just assume that they can bury us whenever we draw their attention. But the thing is that all of Paul Dano's coworkers knew the truth. They knew the truth, and no matter what thoughtless, heartless thing was said, they stood up and said, I know better than this. You have to be brave to do it. But I'm starting to notice as a society in places something very hopeful. We have had a lot of darkness lately, but people are getting sick of bowing down. And they're starting to say, no, I am going to speak up and say, I know this person to be good. I know them to be faithful. I know them to be kind. And if you are going to trash them for your own gain, well, then screw you very much. And it was really interesting to me to watch these people come forward and speak up. I'm sure when that first story broke and Paul Dano saw this powerful director lay into him for probably no reason he could fathom, that he thought, I'm sunk. And now everyone is talking about what an awesome person he is. I bet he gets jobs out of this. So to bring that back around to you, it is hard because Quentin Tarantino had his story, but all of Paul Dano's friends had theirs. And when you walk into a place with hope and love and patience and blood, sweat, and tears, and you do it for years and years. And then the recipient of that, through the story that they create due to mental illness or whatever reason it is creating a story and amplifying it only for negative gain. I just want to let you know that there are a tremendous number of people who love you and know who you are. And there are a lot more of us than there are of people who might listen to that other story. All stories are true, but that doesn't mean they all have the same power. And watching you devote your life to trying to help people reclaim their agency and power, I do not think that one voice is going to be able to bring that down. It's very hard, especially when you work in any field where you serve others, whether you serve them spiritually, whether you serve them emotionally, financially, whether you're a teacher, whether you're a doctor, there's always going to be the one who says you weren't enough. But then there is that massive amount of the people that you healed who know you and know the vibration and the divinity that you bring. And unfortunately, we're often not vocal enough about it. So, everybody, this holiday season, or heck, even after the holiday season, please make your voice heard for a friend of yours who does consistently good work healing in our world, because they may need to hear it in the face of the one extremely loud, amplified voice who needs to tell themselves a story in order to continue in whatever world they've created for themselves.
Yeah, and I know we were talking, and I want to thank you for all the kind things that you said. And I do genuinely believe that when you go through your life and you are putting out good and loving and things from the focus of the highest good, that ultimately that's what's going to shine through. It's been really interesting. It has taught me something that I think is really helpful. I know we were talking in a little break in between about how so many people are, especially around the holidays, pushed back into family situations where there are a lot of very different versions of what has happened and very different versions and different stories of who you are and how you're perceived. And you tend to be perceived very differently sometimes in your family of origin versus who you know yourself to be out in the whole rest of the world. Sometimes going back into that, going back maybe even to the hometown and the things where you get pigeonholed, everybody has their own versions of the story. Everybody has their own version of who you are. And one of the things that I found really empowering in this was to realize that I feel solid and comfortable in my version and my truth, and that it's okay for somebody else to have a different version and to let them have it. You know, the idea that we don't have to all agree on one version, or we don't have to get others to agree about our version of truth, our version of our experience, in order for it to really genuinely be true. That we can go into that going, I know my experience, I know who I am, and it's okay that they don't. And it's another one of those metaphorical dropping of the tug of war. And when we let go of that, it creates a shift in this whole dynamic of they don't have the power over you anymore. If you need them to agree with your version, and that's how you're going to be validated, then they have a lot of power because they can continue to withhold agreement of it. And in all likelihood, you know, they have their own version that they believe in very strongly because of the way that they saw the world, and through the filters that of their own trauma, the filters of their own issues that they experienced it through. But when we can let go of that and just go, it's okay that your version is different. Really double down inside of, I know my truth. Yeah. And it's that I am worthy and that I am coming from a space of love. And that truth may be that I've screwed up in big ways. That truth can include, I've had big screw ups. I did the best that I could in the moment, and I would maybe change certain things or that kind of stuff. It doesn't mean that we have to defend our mistakes or that we have to tell ourselves that we were different than we were, but simply owning, I'm worthy of love. I am the divine being that I know that I am. And it's okay if you can't see that right now. It may be a different way of going into these sorts of interactions and seeing how that feels. I've definitely done that in a lot of other kinds of larger family events where I spent so many years determined that I needed them to see me. I needed them to agree that I was worthy. I needed them to see that I was good enough for this person that I was with. I needed them to see that. And the first time I went into one of these things going, I don't need them to see anything because I see it. And that's really all that matters.
Right.
Everything was different. And I feel like it started shifting things towards a much healthier, more positive overall interaction. So I'm hoping that that's beneficial, that concept to people, because it was really new to me.
One of the other things we were talking about a little bit on the break was what happens when other people's story is simply silence or refusal to acknowledge. I know for a fact that I have friends who are going to holiday gatherings with their family where they will be expected to sit and be nice in a room with their abuser, where they spoke up about something that happened in the family and said, I need help, or this person has abused or assaulted me. And in the name of not wanting to rock the boat or not wanting to accept it, they were simply told, no, we're just not going to discuss this, or that never happened, plain ice. And first off, I am not a psychiatrist. I am not a psychologist. Situations like this, absolutely, you need to go get professional help to help you navigate these things. But I do want to put out there this idea. If these people, even if they are related to you, didn't show up for you when you needed help and are expecting you to sit and eat ham and stuffing next to someone who was abusive to you in your past, why are you going? I mean, because it's expected, because it's the holidays, because great Nana is there and you don't want to disappoint her. We'll have brunch with great Nana at a different time. Let the rest of the family explain where you are this holiday season. Go out with your friends instead. Go to someone else's house for the holidays. I mean, the amount of, excuse my French, but we can check the explicit box on the podcast. The amount of absolute bullshit that we put up with over the holiday season in the name of making people feel like they're in a Norman Rockwell painting is absolutely ludicrous. And if people are giving your story absolute silence, then it's okay for you to abandon that post, to return silence to them by not gifting them with your presence, because your
Yeah.
presence is a gift. It is a miraculous, wonderful, divine gift. And no one should have to say, pass the cranberry sauce to their abuser so that everybody can keep pretending everything is fine when it isn't. Also, I have seen situations where that person does stop showing up for those family gatherings and things start to change. Or they stop showing up for the family gatherings and someone else who is being abused in that family by the same person suddenly realizes that they may have an ally who can help them. So just think about, and not just in your family, too. How many events do you go to where you have to sit and play nice and you do not want to be there, where it's actually damaging to you to be there? I know a lot of people who go to events long past the time when they're actually getting something out of it because it is expected. If you're ever having the thought, oh man, I really wish I wasn't at that, and that person who called out sick to this event, I actually admire them. Sit down and think, do the things that I'm doing serve me? Do they fill my cup? Or am I simply doing it to fill someone else's cup? And if I am doing it just to fill someone else's cup, does that person deserve it? Is this in the name of a balanced give and take energetic relationship between me and another person? Like, have they done a ton of things for me and so I will show up for them? Are they a dear, dear friend and so I will make sure I am there to support them? Those things are all great reasons to be somewhere when maybe you would have rather stayed in your pajamas. But if you are driving 4 hours to spend the evening in the company of an abusive ex, whatever, remember you are divine. And while I know that November and December have glitter painted on them and a holiday magic, you're a divine creature. You can have magic anytime you want it. There's a lot of pressure on us to be something pure and perfect and wonderful and superhuman, especially at this time of year. Our humanity and our flaws and our uniqueness are what make us memorable. They're what allow us to laugh. It's okay to be flawed at this time of year. And it's also okay to say, I'm kind of done with others who aren't supporting who I really am.
Absolutely. And I'm so glad that you said that because I realized that the situations and things that I was describing could very much have sounded like I was advocating to stay in these really unhealthy sorts of relationships and dynamics, which was definitely not my intention. So I'm so glad that you covered that as well. Sometimes there are times when we're just stuck in something, but there are lots of times when we have the power to get ourselves out and not be there to begin with, which is absolutely a very good way to do it.
In our last episode, Samael was saying sometimes we have to abandon things, but then he talks about reclaim. The reclamation doesn't mean I go back in then and solve this relationship. There's this idea in Hallmark movies that people are on their deathbeds and everybody reunites and forgives each other for everything. Yeah, that's BS, right?
Yeah, it's like maybe
That's
that can happen.
been,
Sometimes it takes maybe multiple lifetimes to get there.
it
Or,
may be part of your job on this trip around the sun was to break that cycle so that the next time your energy and their energy interact, it can be in a healthier place. I think what Samael is talking about in that reclamation is once things have settled, not that same moment, but once things have settled and say, what lessons from this am I carrying with me? What things or good memories do I still hold on to? What things am I grateful for? I'll give you another example. I was doing some reflecting on the last several years recently, and there are a couple of people who my relationship with them changed. It changed. They went their way, I went mine. The longer we were together, the more I realized that their ethics and morals were not my ethics and morals. The choices that they sometimes make in how to deal with things, I did not agree with. And I have either let them go or am in the process of letting them go. But that doesn't mean I was ungrateful for the relationship that we had. When things were going well, they did a beautiful job of giving me a start or bolstering me up or building my confidence. And just because now I don't necessarily want to hang out with them, and they probably don't want to hang out with me, or now we're not really serving each other's needs in that way anymore, it doesn't mean that I'm still not grateful. There are a lot of people that I wouldn't have met if I hadn't met them first. There are a lot of things that I wouldn't have tried if I hadn't met them first. There are a lot of choices that I didn't know I would make differently, except I got to watch them make certain choices. And so there's a reclamation there of sitting down and saying, just because things didn't work out the way I hoped, it doesn't mean that there aren't energies and history there that I am grateful to have had happened, that I was grateful to know them, even though they're no longer part of my journey.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was thinking, I had made notes originally, and I was thinking maybe Samael could elaborate a little bit more on the parts where he talked about, is there any remedy? What is the remedy to having your name sullied and all of that he was talking about? And then he was saying, what do we reclaim? What is it that we should go back for? What are the things that we've left behind that we should go back for? The hopes and the dreams, things like that. Does he have a little bit more practical kinds of advice of how do we do that? How do we both reclaim or remedy those situations for ourselves, and then how is it that we go back and we reclaim the things, the hopes and the dreams and the things that we had that didn't really come to fruition through that relationship?
That sounds great. Would you mind singing a little bit while I do
Absolutely.
that? Because you singing really makes the difference here.
I would be happy to right away. Home run, home run, home run. Oh Ram, oh Ram, oh Ram. Oh Ram, oh Ram, oh Ram, oh Ram. Oh Ram, Ram, oh Ram, oh Ram, oh Ram. Oram Haye, Oram Haye, Aya, 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 Oram, Ora, Ram, oh Ram, oh Ram. Shit. Okay. Oh Ram, oh Ram, oh Ram. Arare,
Okay. Oh, here we go. I had no idea what we were going to talk about really when we got on, especially here for part two. But this, I think, is going to be really helpful for people over the holidays when they're running into a lot of these relationships, returning to their hometown or going back to see their family. Here's what Samael had to say in response to your question. You were talking about steps and what people can do when someone makes a move against you and they have their own story that definitely does not jive with yours. And their version of the story and the way that they're splashing it around is intended to harm. So here is what he said. Walking an edge is not an easy thing. Two stories meet and their borders collide. First, sit in contemplation. Where does your truth lie? How is it expressed? How will you respond when others bring tales to you? And then this is like a quote of something that he's saying to say. While I understand that that is the reality they paint, upon reflection, it does not match with my own experience or knowledge, or the experience or knowledge of others. It is from an unbalanced place, and I grieve for them. I was like, that kind of made me go, all right. Because you're not the only one that experienced that you were in a good and true place, right? There are other people that were there that went on that journey with you and they agree with you. So you're letting the person who comes and says, oh, I heard this, know that you've reflected on it. You're taking it seriously, right? But that this does not match your reality, nor does it match the reality of other witnesses, right? And that what this person is saying is coming, it sounds like it's coming from an unbalanced place, and I grieve for them. They're saying these things because they need to say these things because of an injury or hurt that they have that is not part of you. People project so much and so often that you can see in the stories that they tell exactly where their woundings and their fractures lie. But what people are not good at is accepting responsibility for the healing that they need to do. And so they say, this person, you know. So then he says, also at this time, call in your own shielding, protection, and guides at this time. If you are in an unsafe place in this realm, abandon the relationship. Circumstances will not change in its current form. This is important, I think, because we all go, well, maybe things will change. They can't change as long as the energy currently in the situation doesn't change. You have to cut this one off. You may never want to have a relationship with this person again, but if you do, it is going to be a completely different relationship. It has to be, because the one that you're in right now is toxic, and it will continue to be toxic as long as you let it fester. So he's saying you're not cutting off any possibility that on down the line, that person might, and it might even not even be in this lifetime. It might be in a future life. It might be once you guys are part of the all again, and they go, oh, whoa, that was a rough go round for me as a human. But you can't open up that possibility as long as you let these things just stay the way they are. He then says, second, balance yourself. Tend to your own energies. Settle and take care. Hold a funeral and burial for that time in your soul. So, one of the reasons that we have burials and funerals is for a sense of closure, for saying this time, this particular period has ended, right? And we can hold funerals and burials for periods of our life, for who we were at that time and who they were at that time, and say goodbye to them. So he's saying rather than just going, I'm fine, I'm fine, I'm fine, and let's sweep it under the rug and we'll move on, that you may need time to mourn and to treat yourself as an entity that is in mourning. Because when a relationship ends, there's definitely grief there, especially if it was a long one and a close one, especially if it was one that had blood, sweat, and tears in it. There's going to be grieving there, and there needs to be time and support to grieve. And then he says, seek out what you gained from that relationship elsewhere. What needs were met? What energies were exchanged? So you went and found that person, or they found you, and you clicked, or you entered into a relationship with them. It served a purpose. Whether that purpose was, I want to help, that could have been the purpose. Whether it was, I need someone to help me, whatever it was, there was a need there that drove you to find that person, begin that period of your life with them. And those needs and energies may still be there. They're not currently being satisfied by that person because circumstances have changed. Your time with them has come to an end. But if you still have that need, there might be a different way to express it now that might help you to find balance. So, what we're looking at in the beginning is, do I need to abandon this relationship in order to protect and save myself and create space for new energy to come in? And then there's this period of stabilizing where you're mourning what passed by and you're assessing, what did I receive from that relationship and what did they receive from me? And do I still need to have those needs met elsewhere? Maybe the relationship ended and I felt it wasn't successful. Could I attempt something like that in a different vein where I'd get a degree of success? Can I volunteer somewhere? Can I help somebody out with their situation? Is that need still there? And if so, what energetically do I need to do?
I really like that part of the what need was I serving by being in that relationship? And sometimes it's a need that you were actually getting something from. And sometimes it's I was trying to get this need met and it was never really met with that relationship. And how could I get it met in a healthy way? Like, I love the
Right.
saying, don't go to the post office for milk. It's like, was I going to the post office for milk? Was I going to a place that really doesn't have what I needed, but I was determined to go there and get it? Or do I need to go to a place that really has the thing that I need? Or is there a healthy way that I can meet that need as opposed to whatever unhealthy dynamic could have been going on there?
If you need to, share your story and experiences with those close to you. It heals and balances to share. So it's different from what you were talking about. I need to have somebody else validate my story. But to be able to say, here is what I went through. Maybe you went through something similar, to help you feel that connection to the all and to share what happened, because there does need to be, especially when you put blood, sweat, and tears into a situation, wanting to have a record of it, even if it's just in another's memory, is really important. This happened, right? And then he says, understand that nothing is ever finished, not here, not elsewhere. not in your heart. Tend to your wounds should they reopen, and know that death is not an end. And while we aim for balance, it is not a permanent state. Do not belittle yourself for falling from its grace. And so we dance. That is why dance is a sacred thing, a visible, tangible finding of balance.
Wow, that was beautiful and so helpful. Thank you so much for
Oh,
bringing
oh,
that through
good.
because I just kept feeling he posed some questions, but we didn't really have a good, solid answer to
Right.
those.
When we go back, I think one of the questions that he posed is he said, what do you need to go back and reclaim? One of the things he mentioned was your hopes. You went into that relationship with a hope, and probably some parts of that hope were met at certain times. There were some successes, and you may have been a lot more successful than you realize because we can't know the whole of what's inside somebody else's thoughts and heart, right? The calamity may have been much bigger if you'd never been there. I mean, we know it would have, right? So there was a success there. But if you still are holding that sweet little hope in there that was never met, is there a way to have that hope met in a different way today and say, I'm now going to take all the things that I learned. It's going to change. It's going to morph. I'm going to go through the book and I'm going to cross out the words that no longer serve me. And I'm going to save the ones that do. And I'm going to step forward again with a new sacred text and see if I can put this hope into practice one more time.
Absolutely. Something really interesting. That last song, I felt very much it had a lot of Lilith energy. I was like, whoa, this is definitely a different energy. I felt like there was some element of Lilith coming through in that
Sounded
as
more like
well.
her. It
Yeah.
definitely sounded more like her. You could hear that cry come through. But I mean, she and the Magdalene have an awful lot in common. We're
Yeah.
looking at two women who had and still have all kinds of stories about them. But oh, the things they have to teach.
Indeed. Yeah, I was wondering if Samael had anything to say about the song, the last song, because it was so different and it did feel like it had Lilith coming in. I know we just have a second, but I was like, just in case he has anything he wants to say
Samael,
about
do you
that.
want to say anything? Well, hold on. There's definitely a message here. Just give me one more minute.
Sure.
Oh boy, well, this is going to be neat right before you walk out the door. He says, do you grieve in your voice, singer? Lilith often grieves in hers. Sing along and know that you are both mothers of joy with whole hearts. I believe he is saying that she often uses her voice as a way to release her joy, but also her grief, and that you may have things that you need to grieve, and that she is offering her song so that you can sing along in yours and release what needs to be released. And know that both of you are beautiful, divine mothers with whole hearts for the world, even when you have grief to express.
Thank you. That was really beautiful. And I feel like it's like I want to leave people. I'm glad that he said that because I want to leave people in a with a good place with a song that helps to hold them moving out into the world. And I was feeling like that's not what that felt like. There
Yeah,
was a power to it and a strength to it, but it didn't feel that way. So I'm thinking maybe I will just put on the sacred soothing,
that
or
would be great.
one of those at the end here, so that people have something, because I don't feel like I can bring that through right now.
Right, right, right,
And I don't
right,
want to bring any more of my own grief,
right.
although I'm hoping that maybe that song helped to allow others to have a release of things that maybe they needed to
Yes.
release as well. And so I will attach a song then to the end here, like I have in the past, that will have the energy to help to hold everyone as they step out into the world.
So just know that as you are navigating these relationships, um, as you are taking time to grieve and to hope and to balance and to figure out what your next steps are, you do not do it alone. And Lilith is right there behind you to lend her voice.
And Mary Magdalene as well. And a whole
Absolutely.
host of others, really,
A
when we
whole
think about
host of
it.
others.
The list could go on.
As it could. You are not alone. So thank you so much for sharing your story, Ken. I know that's
Absolutely.
a very personal thing to share. And I know that there are a lot of people navigating treacherous roads, and I don't just mean in an ice and snow way, um, this holiday season. Know that you are not alone and that you carry your own magic with you, despite what others may think.
Absolutely. So, sending you out into the world with so much of our love and support, and this music to help to soothe you and hold you in it.
Until next time.
Bye now.